Saying Logan Paul is a bad person is a statement comparable to the likes of something like the sky is blue or grass is green. It's surprising to literally no one, and it's just known as fact at this point. Yet, he still somehow manages to keep finding ways to dig this arbitrary hole deeper and deeper. And it looks like today, he's gonna be doing that in the fashion of attempting to become a cringy anime villain. And getting right into it, pretty much this entire story comes from Logan Paul's lawsuit against coffeezilla, and since we haven't really been keeping up on Logan Paul, and especially this lawsuit, I'm just gonna give y'all a quick rundown of everything that happened that leads us to this point, and it's of course not really gonna be too in-depth on the lawsuit itself, especially the legality, because that's not really the main point or really too important at all to today's situation. But getting into it, a few years ago, Logan Paul started this project called CryptoZoo, and to skip all the BS and call it what it is, it was pretty much a crypto scam that was supposed to be this wacky little game where you could pre-invest into all these different eggs that pretty much just gives you these like AI generated images of these animals that are supposed to be able to make you money and be able to be traded for different types of cryptocurrency. But the game itself never ended up releasing, and pretty much every single person that put their money into it, other than obviously the creators like Logan Paul, lost every single dollar that they put into it. And right now, for those of you that are thinking that half the blame should be on the people that even put money into this in the first place, I'm honestly 100% with you. Falling for any crypto scam, especially one peddled by the likes of Logan Paul, is crazy. But that doesn't really make it fine for them to still peddle these scams, especially when they're promising something that they never actually deliver on. That'd be the equivalent to me opening some sort of random store, for example, and I have this program where a bunch of people can pre-order whatever arbitrary item I'm selling here, and I make all this money, but I never actually open the store, nor do I provide anyone that gave me money with anything of value at all. And actually, not only anything of value, but just nothing at all. They get nothing. But after this happened, of course, a ton of people were obviously pissed with Logan Paul. Not only the people that invested their money, and some of them lost basically their life savings, but also just the general internet. They're like, hey man, what's going on? You just blatantly scammed a ton of people. And of course, one of the biggest people criticizing him was coffeezilla when he released pretty much a super in-depth video that he exposed everything that Logan Paul did. And a part of this backstory that I actually think is pretty important to today's situation is Logan Paul's initial response to this. Because after coffeezilla released these videos and they got a ton of attention, Logan Paul didn't back down and apologize immediately and pretty much noticed that he's obviously 100% wrong, but instead, he originally threatened him with legal action and made a video response to coffeezilla, and we're gonna take a quick look at that now.
coffeezilla. I watched her 3-part series called Investigating Logan Paul's Biggest Scam, and like many on this platform, you have successfully used my name for views and money. While your work used to be impartial, your addiction to clicks has clouded your judgment, and you've made very real errors with very real repercussions. Coffee, you took a shot at my reputation, so in this video today, I'm gonna be defending myself with facts, something that you have gotten in the habit of twisting as you continue to morph from an investigator to a gossip channel. Even though I've said it's coming so many times, you've assumed that CryptoZoo isn't being made. Who are you to decide when the development timeline ends? I got everything stolen from me in our community, stopped promoting publicly as soon as I knew the extent of the internal issues, took all of the heat on social, and you still published a defamatory hit piece fully knowing I was innocent just so you could enrich yourself in your $10 million studio. Sharp, but deeply unethical, dangerously misleading, and illegal. We're gonna handle this ourselves while we continue to build CryptoZoo, and I'll see you in court.
Now, after watching that clip, he sounds so certain about what he's peddling here that a lot of you may have forgotten that to this day, CryptoZoo actually never released. But after that, even though he sounded so certain in everything that he said there, I'm almost sure that absolutely no one took the bait and believed anything that he said. So basically immediately after that, he did a complete 180 and just apologized to coffeezilla because he basically had to at this point. Absolutely everyone was against him, and we're also going to be taking a quick look at his apology as well, because that really sets us up for today's situation, and part of his apology is really what majority of this lawsuit is based on.
Coffeezilla is not a criminal. I called him, I apologized. My initial response to his series was that of fire, an ego, flare, whatever it is, pride. I'm a fighter at heart, and I was defensive because I know I never scammed anyone with this project. I never made any money, never sold any tokens, and I only had the best intentions going in. But the fact is that suing Coffeezilla is not going to help CryptoZoo holders, so I do need to focus my attention where it should be, which is on fans and supporters of me. You guys mean the world to me, so I'd like to announce my 3-step plan moving forward. Step 1, Jeff and I are going to burn our Zoo tokens so we have no financial upside in the game, and it will add value to holder tokens. Step 2, we want to offer a rewards program for players who are disappointed in the status of the game. So essentially, you're going to be able to burn your base egg or your base animal for the mint price, which was 0.1 ETH or the equivalent in BNB. I am personally committing 1,000 ETH to this, which is about $1.3 million right now for players who want to get out. And then step 3, obviously finish and deliver the game as outlined in the white paper by completing the egg bridge from ETH to BSC for base animals and base eggs, completing the marketplace, and obviously completing the releasing your animals into the wild to accrue your yield function. To say I am disappointed in how this was handled internally is an understatement. There's a full internal investigation going on along with an audit, and we are going to pursue full legal action for whomever needs to be held accountable. If any money is recovered in the process, it'll go right to the community. My sole obligation is to my supporters, and I know this video is long overdue. Here it is. I'm sorry, guys. I apologize for how this has unfolded thus far, and I want people to know that they can trust me and that I'll always take care of the fans and people who support me. I appreciate your guys' patience while we do our internal investigation, and I promise to be transparent and disclose any information we find out in the process. And lastly, thank you, Coffeezilla. You have catalyzed this, and I am very grateful for your work and your investigation, and I mean that. Thank you, bro.
So like you seen in that clip, a big part of Logan Paul's apology was this promise of a buyback program where he was pretty much gonna try to refund the people that bought into this to the best of his ability, and reasonably what he's trying to make it out to seem like is that, you know, he's basically gonna give everyone back the money that they lost. And after this apology slash reimbursement video came out, Coffeezilla also made another video pretty much attacking this, and honestly, to call it how it is, just exposing that this buyback plan, big surprise, isn't exactly what Logan Paul promised, nor is it even close to sufficient enough to really refund even a fraction of the money that people lost. But even with all the facts on the table and Coffeezilla just straight up exposing him, this is pretty much the point that Logan Paul decided to take legal action against him because he believed that Coffeezilla was trying to defame him in saying that this buyback program isn't what Logan Paul's saying it is, and Logan Paul of course believed, or at least was trying to push the idea that it was. And that pretty much leads us to today's situation, where we're going to be taking a look at some of the court documents that became public that reveal some of Logan Paul's, I guess what he thought were private texts, but since I'm making this video even talking about it, obviously it wasn't too private. Before we get into this as well, I really want you to get into the right mindset and put on your cringe blocker glasses, because some of these texts really make you think that Logan Paul might just think he's some sort of super high level evil anime villain. But getting into these text messages, it starts with Logan Paul saying, lawyering up, suing this motherfucker into the ground, and his friend, I don't know who this friend is, but they're just referred to as friend here, his friend then says, then everything will come out, court docs public, and Logan Paul responds with, so everyone will see what happened, for better or for worse. Then his friend responds with, to let others know it's not worth coming at you, there's a price to pay, and then Logan responds with, that's the idea, I see the momentum building cause the throne is being shook right now, which is already kind of a crazy statement to say. Not only is it getting into the cringe territory, but it seems like he's pretty much just saying that if anyone attacks him, he kinda just wants to shut them down because, for the most part, he can pretty much just shove his money in anyone's face through a lawsuit because most people obviously can't really match that to defend themselves because they just straight up don't have as much money. But then he continues to say, need to shut it down. Then one of his friends says, public humiliation is always more effective. Logan says, totally agree. And then at the bottom of this, I don't know if this is quite a continuation of what they're saying right here or just separate, but regardless, Logan proceeds to say, just to make his life difficult, which pretty much just confirms that he's of course obviously attempting to sue Coffeezilla solely to make his life more difficult rather than believing that he actually wronged him here. But moving on with the text and now getting into the point where it gets a bit wacky, Paul says Zilla will pay one way or another, I'll make sure of it. And then he continues to say, all I want is for people who wronged me to suffer. while I continue to get wins on their graves. And I did read that right the first time, but after going over it once, I felt like I had to throw in the little voice because that's definitely what he thought he sounded like in his head when he went to go and say that. And I don't know what anime he just got through watching, but he clearly took heavy inspiration from whoever the main villain was. But after going through these texts, it really just proves what everyone was thinking, and I was gonna say it, of course, makes him look like a really bad person, but he's already done that so much that I don't know if this really ruins his reputation much more than it already is. But sadly, even with these texts and everything surrounding them being exposed and brought to light, I really don't think that's gonna affect the actual court case too much, because when it comes down to it, you really can just sue someone for any reason, and honestly, most of the time someone ends up attempting to sue someone else, it usually is to just make their life worse. And obviously, that's just a side effect of suing someone, but I'm talking about, like, a lot of the times, it's just intentionally to make their life worse. They're not even just suing them because they think they've been wronged, they're suing them to specifically make the other party's life harder. And in a case like this, it's to make the other party's life harder, get back at them, and pretty much try to set a precedent for anyone else that tries to attack them in the future. But even though I don't think this is gonna really affect the case that much, I also just don't think Logan, even with all of the money he's putting into it, is really gonna win this case and get whatever it is that he's asking for, because for a defamation case, you also have to prove that the opposing party defamed you to the point where they lowered your reputation enough to cause at least somewhat significant, or really not even significant, but measurable damages. And like I said earlier, his reputation is already so bad that, let's just say coffeezilla did defame him and somehow did lie, that still wouldn't really ruin his reputation any more than it already is. So it's not like he'd have to pay any sort of damages or anything, because there were really no real damages that Logan hasn't already caused himself. But it looks like for now that wraps up Logan Paul's second middle schooler arc where he thinks he's becoming an anime villain. And if you enjoyed any part of the video, make sure to drop a like and a subscribe, because that voice I did earlier did take a toll on me, and it was also pretty cringe because it was supposed to be. But that's pretty much it. I'm not gonna hold y'all for too long, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.